In the early hours of December 17, 1944, the snow-covered hills of the Ardennes forest were ablaze with artillery fire, as the German army launched a surprise counterattack through the dense forest, aiming to split the Allied forces and capture the strategic port of Antwerp. The Battle of the Bulge, as it would come to be known, was one of the bloodiest and most pivotal battles of World War II. Amidst the chaos, a lone American soldier, Private First Class James R. Hendricks, found himself at the forefront of the battle. His actions that day would change the course of the war in a surprising way. As the sun began to set on December 16, Hendricks, a 22-year-old rifleman from the 101st Airborne Division, was stationed in the small town of Bastogne, which controlled the key road network in the region. The 101st had been holding the town for weeks, and the soldiers were exhausted, hungry, and outnumbered. The German army had been secretly massing troops in the area, and the Allies were caught off guard. As the German artillery pounded the town, Hendricks and his comrades huddled in their foxholes, waiting for orders to fall back. In the chaos of the battle, Hendricks's commander, Lieutenant Colonel Harry Kinnaird, radioed in a desperate plea for artillery support, but the message was misread by the radio operator, and instead of calling in artillery, Hendricks was instructed to send up a flare to mark the position of the German troops. The flare, a simple pyrotechnic device, was meant to be used to guide in air support, but in this case, it would have disastrous consequences. As Hendricks fumbled in the dark, trying to find the flare, he accidentally grabbed a different type of flare, one that was meant to signal friendly troop positions, not enemy positions. The flare, a bright green color, shot up into the sky, illuminating the snow-covered landscape. The Germans, thinking that the flare marked the position of the American troops, adjusted their artillery fire, pouring shells into the wrong location. The mistake would prove to be a blessing in disguise. As the German artillery pounded the empty forest, the 101st Airborne was able to fall back and regroup, avoiding a devastating barrage that would have cut them off from the rest of the Allied forces. The delay gave the Americans precious time to reinforce their positions and prepare for the German onslaught. Meanwhile, the German commander, General Heinrich Freiherr von Luttwitz, was frustrated by the lack of progress, and his troops were beginning to lose momentum. The delay had given the Americans a chance to respond, and soon the skies were filled with the sound of Allied planes, as the air support that Hendricks had mistakenly called in began to arrive. As the battle raged on, Hendricks's mistake became a turning point. The German army, exhausted and depleted, was unable to overcome the Allied defenses. On December 26, the German army launched a final assault, but it was too late. The Allies had regrouped and were ready. The German army was pushed back, and the Battle of the Bulge was won. In the aftermath of the battle, Hendricks's actions were hailed as a heroic mistake. The private's error had saved the lives of over 10,000 American soldiers and had changed the course of the war. Hendricks himself would go on to receive the Bronze Star for his actions, and his story would become a legend among the soldiers of the 101st Airborne. As for the flare, it would become a symbol of the unpredictability of war, a reminder that even the smallest mistake can have profound consequences. The Phantom Flare, as it came to be known, would be remembered as a turning point in the Battle of the Bulge, a testament to the bravery and resilience of the soldiers who fought in one of the bloodiest battles of World War II. The story of Private Hendricks and the Phantom Flare serves as a reminder that war is a complex and unpredictable beast, where the actions of a single soldier can change the course of history. It is a story of heroism, of luck, and of the human element that makes war so chaotic and unpredictable. As we look back on the Battle of the Bulge, we remember the soldiers who fought and died, and the small mistakes that can make all the difference between victory and defeat. As the days passed, Hendricks couldn't shake the feeling that his actions had been more luck than skill. He had made a mistake, a simple error that could have had disastrous consequences, but instead, it had changed the course of the battle. He thought about the flare, the Phantom Flare, and how it had become a symbol of the unpredictability of war. The other soldiers in the 101st Airborne looked at him with a mixture of awe and curiosity, wondering how he had managed to make such a mistake and yet still emerge as a hero. Hendricks's commander, Lieutenant Colonel Kinnaird, called him into his office one day, a serious look on his face. "Hendricks, I've been thinking about what happened during the battle," he said, "and I've come to the realization that your mistake was not just a fluke, but a turning point in the battle. Kinnard leaned forward, his eyes locked on Hendricks. "I want you to know that your actions, although accidental, showed a level of instinct and quick thinking that is rare in soldiers. You reacted under pressure, and your mistake became a blessing in disguise." Hendricks felt a sense of pride and relief wash over him, knowing that his commander understood the circumstances of his actions. But as he left the office, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The Battle of the Bulge was over, but the war was far from won. The Germans were still fighting, and the Allies had yet to breach the Siegfried Line. Hendricks knew that the next few months would be crucial, and he wondered what other challenges lay ahead. As he walked back to his barracks, he noticed a group of soldiers gathered around a radio, listening intently to a broadcast from the front lines. The news was grim. The Germans were launching a counterattack, and the Allies were struggling to hold their ground. Hendricks felt a surge of adrenaline, knowing that he would soon be back in the thick of the battle. He thought about the phantom flare and how it had changed the course of the war. He wondered what other unexpected events would occur in the coming months, and whether he would be ready to face them. The soldiers around him were quiet, their faces set with determination. They knew that the war was far from over, and that they would have to fight hard to emerge victorious. As Hendricks joined them, listening to the news from the front lines, he felt a sense of camaraderie and shared purpose. They were all in this together, and they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, side by side. The radio crackled, and the voice of the announcer came through, his words laced with a sense of urgency. "The Allies are calling for reinforcements, and the 101st Airborne is being mobilized to join the fight." Hendricks felt a shiver run down his spine, knowing that he would soon be back in the thick of the battle. He thought about the phantom flare, and how it had become a symbol of the unpredictability of war. He wondered what other surprises lay ahead, and whether he would be able to rise to the challenge. The soldiers around him were tense, their eyes fixed on the radio, as if willing the news to be different. But deep down, they knew that they would have to face whatever lay ahead, together, as a team. The announcer's voice faded away, and the soldiers were silent for a moment, lost in their own thoughts. Then, as one, they stood up, their faces set with determination. They knew what lay ahead, and they were ready to face it, side by side, as brothers in arms. As they stood up, the barracks erupted into a flurry of activity, with soldiers rushing to gather their gear and prepare for departure. Hendricks joined the chaos, his heart racing with anticipation. He thought about the lessons he had learned during the Battle of the Bulge, and how he could apply them to the upcoming fight. Lieutenant Colonel Kinnard appeared, his voice booming above the din, as he gave orders and assignments to the soldiers. Hendricks was tasked with leading a squad to secure a key intersection, a crucial junction that could give the Allies a strategic advantage. As he gathered his squad, he felt a sense of trepidation, knowing that the Germans would not give up easily. The squad moved out, their boots echoing through the barracks as they made their way to the assembly point. The air was crisp and cold, with a hint of snow on the horizon, and Hendricks could see his breath as he gave orders to his squad. They were a seasoned group, with each soldier handpicked by Kinnard for their expertise and bravery. There was Johnson, the medic, who had saved countless lives during the Battle of the Bulge, Thompson, the sniper, who had a deadly accuracy that had earned him a reputation among the enemy, and Rodriguez, the radio operator, who could conjure up a signal from thin air. As they approached the assembly point, Hendricks could see the 101st Airborne spread out before him, a sea of soldiers stretching as far as the eye could see. The sound of engines roared to life, and the ground shook beneath their feet as the tanks and artillery moved into position. Hendricks felt a surge of excitement, knowing that they were on the cusp of something big. The squad climbed aboard a waiting truck, and as they sped away from the barracks, Hendricks caught a glimpse of the phantom flare, now a symbol of the unpredictability of war, emblazoned on the side of the vehicle. It was a reminder that even in the heat of battle, mistakes could become opportunities, and that the line between victory and defeat was often razor-thin. The truck screeched to a halt, and the squad jumped out, their rifles at the ready. They were at the edge of a small village, with buildings that seemed to lean in, as if listening to their conversation. The air was tense, with an undercurrent of fear that hung like a mist over the landscape. Hendricks gave a signal, and the squad moved out, fanning out across the village like a well-oiled machine. They knew that the Germans could be anywhere, and that the intersection they were tasked with securing could be a killing zone. As they moved deeper into the village, the silence was oppressive, with only the sound of their boots echoing off the buildings. Hendricks felt a sense of unease, knowing that they were walking into the unknown and that the next few minutes could be their last. Suddenly, a shot rang out, and the squad hit the ground, their rifles scanning the rooftops for any sign of the enemy. Hendricks peered around a corner, his heart pounding in his chest, and that was when he saw it, a German machine gun nest, tucked away in a nearby building, its barrel trained directly on them.